Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my video on freezer cooking. So I've done a couple of these kinds of videos and you've all seemed to really like them. Now this season of life with my freezer cooking has been a little more chaotic, a little bit less planned, but we've still been getting freezer cooking done and a lot of you guys asked to see this video. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the different meals that we've been making and eating from out of the freezer, as well as just different things that we freeze for convenience in general. So with all of that being said, let's hop right in. So before we hop into this freezer cooking video, I wanted to jump in and tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Skillshare. So Skillshare is an online community for creatives where millions of people come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare has endless classes that you could dive into. Let me give you a little bit of an example. Illustration, graphic design, photography, creative writing, animation, fine art, music production, film and video, marketing, productivity, homemaking, freelance and entrepreneurship, web development, crafts, literally endless classes. Now, I'm pretty excited to check out kind of their homemaking section. They have a class called Happy Houseplant, Pick a Perfect Plant and Learn with the Sill. Oh, and this is cool. Now that I'm starting to get into baking, they have a class called Easy and Versatile Baking, the one yeast dough you need to know. So Dan is actually just getting into music production. I haven't told you guys that, for himself, but also for us, so we can work together on projects, and I'm super excited. So he is looking at taking a class by a guy named Young Guru called Learn How to Mix Music with Young Guru. I am such a big believer in lifetime learning and diving into your creative interests and passions, and it's kind of cool because they even have a class called Choose Must, 10 hands-on exercises to find and pursue your passion. Being a member to Skillshare is super affordable at less than $10 a month, and I'm very excited because the first 1,000 people that use my link down below to sign up will get a free trial of a Skillshare Premium membership. So try out Skillshare Premium for yourself. It is free to try out and I will have the link down below. And with all that being said, let's cook. By the way, some of these meals we were making on the same day, so you might see us hop around a little bit if we're cooking like different things at the same time. So Dan actually cut all of these veggies for me and he used something, I think it's called a mandolin shredder. It basically cuts everything down really finely, as you can see. And we were making chili on this day, by the way. Chili is a go-to freezer meal for us. It's great in these colder months. And I think I mentioned to you guys, one of my goals was to kind of take my chili up a notch in the sense of like stop using pre-made chili mixes. And so that is what I've been working on. And honestly, I think this actually might have been my first one that I did from scratch now that I'm thinking about it. And I've done this a few times because we ate through it so fast and I've kind of been saving this footage for a little while as I've been cooking things for the freezer. But that being said, try number one, like honestly, we knocked it out of the park. This was so good. And it was basically just like a kind of adjusted version of a Pinterest recipe. I've said that to you guys so many times, so many recipes. I just take inspiration from people and then adjust to my/our taste buds. So if you have been wanting to make chili from scratch and you've maybe been intimidated, or maybe no one else is intimidated by chili, it was just me, but if you are intimidated, I want to encourage you to give it a go and just use whatever you have around, because I think you'd really be surprised at how easy it is, or at least I was, and how good it is. And I've actually experimented with a couple more spices, like I said, since filming this, but just like following a vague recipe still turned out great. So if you are nervous about freezer cooking, maybe chili would be a good place for you to start. Especially, like I said, if you live in the part of the world that's starting to go into cooler months. Speaking of cooler months, I knew I wanted to make homemade veggie broth finally after saving random scraps when I could remember for like 6 months. So I pulled that out to sit, and then I actually started the Mexican-inspired bean dip that I wanted to make on the stove by stir-frying some onions and some mushrooms. Now, this mix can be used for burritos, taquitos. You can actually fully make the taquitos by wrapping them in tortillas and then freezing them, but I kind of like just freezing the mix. So I heated up those veggies and I ended up throwing in black beans as well as this Siete cashew queso dip. You can make your own cashew queso dip, by the way. If you look on YouTube or Pinterest, there's plenty of recipes. I've made this recipe so many times, but it's basically just a classic chicken soup recipe where we start with a whole chicken in order to make our own chicken broth. But when I freeze this, I do not freeze it with the noodles. I only freeze the soup as is. And just like a reheating tip, when I thaw my soups, I always add broth. So that's actually where my head was at in terms of making the veggie broth today. On this day, I wanted to freeze veggie broth so that when I thaw and cook the chicken soup in the future, I have that homemade broth. I actually ate some of the soup on this night and it was delicious. And that's the homemade gluten-free bread I've been making. And then I had an apple on the side as well. So once the soup had gotten a chance to cool down for a few hours, this might have even been the next day actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we stored the soup in different Ziploc baggies. Now, another meal that we love making for the freezer is Cajun chicken pasta. I actually don't think we ended up putting chicken in this one. We just did mushrooms and onions, yellow and red bell peppers, and I stir-fried those up. And then I made some homemade cashew sauce by soaking cashews and then basically just blending it all together. Then I crushed some garlic and I mixed everything in the pan. I mean, a lot of cooking for me is just like following my nose and my intuition. And this meal, I'm not gonna lie, it was okay. If you don't make this vegan and you actually use like heavy cream and butter, good quality heavy cream and butter, it is, delicious. But this was like, okay. So if you're vegan and you want to do like a cashew cream, you might be better at this than I am. I haven't made cashew cream products very many times, but yeah, having a Cajun pasta sauce in the freezer is so good. We have been using these random like meal prep things. I can't say that I love them, but I mean, they're okay, to just store different things. So we decided to store our chili in these containers because we felt like the containers were kind of like a 2-person serving size. So yeah, we just dished everything up to store in the freezer. Some people get confused about what you can put in the freezer, and I used to be that same way. And once I figured out that all you have to do is like walk your grocery store freezer aisle and see how many things are sold in the freezer, it makes you realize how much freedom you really have to cook and freeze food on your own. And obviously that way then you can control the ingredients, and it's just convenient. So honestly, all my footage gets all mixed around. Please forgive me. I'm a new mom / too lazy to sort through all of this, but we're circling it back to the veggie broth. And this was super straightforward. I've just been saving scraps. Honestly, I forget regularly. I could be doing this a lot more frequently, but you just save scraps and you throw them in a pot to simmer for like the whole day. Add a little salt, and yeah. So while that was simmering, I decided I wanted to make this soup, which I don't want to call it a mistake. I just learned a little bit of a lesson. So I wanted to make a veggie soup, and I wanted it to have some thyme in it, but I didn't have any fresh thyme. So I actually ended up using 1 drop of a pure essential oil of thyme. But honestly, it was too much, and I really wish I had just either not put it in or used fresh thyme. By the way, I was literally cooking up one of the other Mexican freezer meals while I was making this soup. Anyways, with veggie soups in general, I tend to just use what I have, but I don't know why I got so stuck on this idea of thyme. I could have just not done that, but I still ended up saving it because food is food, and it might taste better the longer it sits. It might taste even better when I reheat it. But in general, I just kind of want to hit the moral home of really what I feel like is the point with a lot of my cooking videos. Try your best, I guess I could say, to experiment in the kitchen. It can be such a fun and fulfilling art form. And I think sometimes we get scared to try new things and fail, but that's the only way we can get more comfortable in the kitchen. And eating is one of those things that's like you're literally gonna eat your whole life. So I think it's a fun, worthwhile pursuit. And that's why I tend to leave in food that I might call a mistake in some of my videos, because A, I'd say 98% of the time I still eat it. And B, I just want to like encourage that thought in general with food. So I had actually made homemade barbecue sauce the day before to make a barbecue chicken sandwich, and it was really good. Honestly, for my first attempt at homemade barbecue sauce, it was decent, but I don't eat tons of barbecue sauce. And so what I do now with basically all of my homemade dips is I freeze them in an ice cube tray, and then I pop out the ice cubes and put them in a bag. You've seen me do this before, but I just wanted to kind of like give you a little reminder, because it can kind of be a cool hack even if you're eating pretty basic, to make some sauces up ahead of time and pop them in the freezer to pull out to dress up maybe things you've meal prepped for that week. Grains, meats, salads, all that. Anyways, as you can see, this was after the veggie broth had sat and simmered all day. And so we just drained it. And yeah, guys, I've actually cooked with this veggie broth since I made it, and it was super tasty. I was kind of nervous at the smell when I was cooking this veggie broth in the first place, but when I actually used it, there was no difference between this or store-bought veggie broth. And you know, it's gotta be more nutritious. So yeah. Now, the very last freezer thing I want to kind of remind you of, because I made a bunch of these last week and I did not regret it for a second, were these date treats. What's awesome about these treats is, yes, they're treats, they're kind of like a dessert, but they're also kind of like a homemade protein bar, especially if you make them in a healthy way, I guess you would say. Like, you're thoughtful about the nut butters you put in and maybe the add-ins like hemp seeds or flaxseed or chia seed or whatever. Now on this day, ironically, I made the most basic bay one, which was just peanut butter and chocolate chips, but I've gone all out with like vanilla extract and salt and, like I mentioned, those other ingredients. I don't know if this actually, means going all out, but I'm just saying you can make it as fancy as you want or as basic as you want, and it's just delicious. Just kidding, I did top the treats with hemp hearts. So yeah, guys, that's it for this video. I know it was kind of all over the place, but I really hope that you enjoyed it. Once again, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And with all of that being said, I will hopefully see you guys back here soon with another new video. Bye, guys.